Yeah, I think as well, to speak to what you're saying, it's like if I want a local plumber, I'm not going to go to an LLM, and be like, well, maybe you could see it. Maybe
Yeah.
at the moment, I still think like there's a lot of inertia. So people still will use Google Maps or they'll Google like plumbers near me and stuff like that. Like I can see a future maybe where that changes as the modality of search changes and it becomes more ambient. Like I think we saw that with, do you remember or it's still going, actually, you remember, but the humane pin? Like it's like a AI pin that you strap to you and it projects it onto your hand and you spoke to it and said, how many calories are in this? And it would like look at like the almonds in your hands and stuff like that.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it's like the product was kind of panned a little bit and it was criticized like for not being a particularly good product, but like their tagline is like, see the world, not your screen. So I do think there's a future. It's just like, why would I go to the computer to read a recipe, for example, when I can just chat with Siri and it'll read it out to me and pause and wait for me. And I'm like, okay, what next? Something like that. Like how much wine am I deglazing this pan with or whatever,
Yeah.
Or like you're driving somewhere and, you're in your car and you go, okay, what's the fastest route to X, Y, Z? Like that's a better experience. And I think maybe that's the future, but at the moment, I think there's inertia and SEO is still very valuable. And it's like in the 10 blue links form. And the only thing that's really being affected maybe is things like AI overviews and zero-click searches, like those kind of informational sites that weren't like, it's a much better result for it to be zero-click in the first place,
To your point, I also think we live in an echo chamber of being at the forefront of SEO, digital marketing,
and also wanting to defend it. Like we're not biased. Like we're not biased. What do you guys think? Should we still invest in SEO?
very lost in the source. I got a quote for some blinds recently and they sent me an email and asked me to direct deposit them through the email. So I have to manually go through and do the deposit to them. I'm like, you don't have a Xero? You don't have a pay now link?
Yep.
They're not worried about LLMs. They're not worried about SEO even, or even their business ops. There's so many businesses so far behind the curve that have no idea that ChatGPT even exists, that optimizing for it now, really worrying about that, it should be on your mind, but we're still a little bit further away. And the best channels to use are the ones you have now and just really promoting them, really double downing into the round, using the resources you have.
I think to build on like why SEO is still important, even with the future of AI, is I think there's two main reasons. Like one is LLMs need to get the information from somewhere. And at the end of the day, you need to make your website accessible not only to a human, but to the robot. If the LLM cannot read your website, it cannot suggest your website when it pulls up search options, when someone's using it to search for whatever. I think the other piece is people like adventure and exploration. So you can look at online shopping now. It's become huge. It was very small in the beginning, but people still go to the shops because people like to browse. People like to look and they like to assess the options at their own pace.
Have a bubble tea,
Yeah.
Love a bubble.
Get a pastry.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think LLMs are going to be used for a lot of convenience. When you want something fast, you want a quick answer. But for those who like to browse, I think there's always going to be an element.
To ponder.
Yeah, they like to wander. Like, they don't want to just be given the answer. They want to see what's out there that they might not be considering, because your world is only with an LLM is only as big as your knowledge base, because you need to know what to prompt the LLM with. But if your knowledge base, if your imagination is really small, then like the only way to expand it is to wander, right? And if it's really small, then your world with LLMs is also going to be really small, because LLMs can only give you what you want.
You're thinking very philosophifily about this. It's almost like I think there's a book that came out, just like it's called Mood Machine, and it's like Spotify and the cost of the perfect playlist. And there's almost like this shrinking of people's like curiosity with music because everything's being fed to them kind of algorithmically. So yeah.
So right, because the algorithm gives you what you already like. So you just get in this echo chamber of seeing more stuff that you like. But then where's the exploration? Like, what about the stuff you're not even aware of?
The best source of any information or trust is people, right? People around you. If you recommend me some music, I'm going to trust that more than going through an LLM exploration probably.
Yeah.
But that's how most business works. It's just people talking about the business well. And my big stance on it is people are going to come down to people just like to communicate with people. We're social creatures. Whether or not it's really easy and convenient to ask an AI what to do today. I'd rather go ask you guys, hey, do you want to go get some lunch or something like that? It just doesn't. To me, I'm not too threatened by it. I'm really to embrace it as part of the human experience.
I think like I have a different take, but I'd say I'm really optimistic about the future of SEO. And I think SEOs are going to have to grow, and like the role of SEO is going to expand, because I do see a future where people interact with LLMs a lot more and they have conversations around, what are the best running shoes for XYZ, and you have like a little bit of a conversation. But I still think like to your point, you still have to provide that training data. And I think SEOs, like, it becomes like less about those 10 blue links and more about yes, the website, but also creating authority across like an entire brand and the collective presence that acts as that training data. So I think that the role of SEO actually becomes less kind of niche and about gaming the algorithm, and more about building that brand online and influencing like this whole corpus of information about who you are and what you do. And I think it's going to become harder, but I think it's going to become more all-encompassing and maybe even more important.